Okay. Yeah, we have no fines for it.
Yeah. You're just like, that was a fine. You totally didn't cuss out. I was like, oh.
I didn't know I couldn't do that.
All right, Mr. Hughes is there.
There he is.
All right. There we go.
Hey, Mr. Hughes, sorry about the technical difficulties, but it looks like we're connecting okay.
Don't hit his name like that.
I want to put you as the presenter to everyone. And I'll try to play a traffic cop from the side.
We can't hear him at all.
Turn the volume up for you. Mr. Hughes, want to say hello to us?
Hello.
Good.
I can see you all, and I'm glad to be among you.
Awesome. Let me see if I can make your picture bigger.
Okay.
All right, cool.
There we go.
Yeah, I saw you a minute ago. You even wearing a tie.
I'll come around from behind the big curtain in just a moment. All right, so thanks for coming out, everybody. I'm gonna do an introduction from the side. So Libertarian Party, Hillsborough County guys came out. I appreciate that very much. We need to grow this party as big as we can. We want to make a difference for upcoming elections. I joined specifically to get people elected. And I thought it would take a couple of years, so 2016. But of course, if you have something you're focused on locally, great. Let's focus on that, and maybe we can get you or one of your buddies into a slot. So, anyways, Mr. Hughes, I was attracted to Mr. Hughes from what we learned about him in the press. What I liked about Mr. Hughes was he's got skin in the game. He actually, has something to say, wanted to say it. Some people may argue it may be an unorthodox way to have said it, but nonetheless, he made his message known to probably 50 million people. And if you weren't paying attention, this is the gentleman who is a rotocopter hobbyist and used that piece of equipment to get onto to fly across the DC Mall and land on the front lawn of Congress and attempt to deliver 535 letters to our Congress people. So I did talk to Mr. Hughes last night. He has some constraints about the kind of things he can talk about because he has some court action in front of him, and he has some employer issues with the U.S. Post Office. He does work for the U.S. Post Office. And he did say his wife still loves him, and I think that's great.
You gotta love you more.
And at this point, I'm going to give you the floor, Mr. Hughes.
Okay. Well, it's good that my wife loves me because I'm under house arrest. And if she didn't love me, I'd starve to death. I can't go out.
That's nice.
I thank you very much for the earlier remarks, and I do want to. I'm going to have more fun answering questions than talking to you. But as you pointed out, I made the flight to deliver 535 letters to Congress. For those of you who haven't read the letter, and most people didn't and haven't, and that makes sense, the idea was simple, that I told Congress that they could either ignore the problem of corruption, or they could pretend to be trying to solve it while they're actually trying to sabotage the idea, or they could roll up their sleeves and actually work to solve the problem. And although the letters were to Congress, the message was for us, for regular people, because we've got the power to address the issue of Congress being bought and paid for and deal with the fact that they're not working for us. Basically, if we cut off their opportunities to make money by working as lobbyists, and we cut off their option to pick up large campaign funds from corporations and special interests, we can box Congress in to where their money comes from us, therefore their attention will be on us. Now, let's say this got done, and I'm not saying it would be easy, the result would not be clean. It would still be messy and ugly and loud, and it would be contentious because that's how democracy works. But it would be a government that was trying to serve the needs of the people instead of serving the needs of the fat cats. We don't have a seat at the table anymore. And that part's got to change. I really am uncomfortable standing on a soapbox. I am pretty comfortable talking with people, even when they disagree with me. And I've never met a libertarian that I agreed with 100%, but then I never met two libertarians who agreed with each other 100%.
That's true.
All right. So I'd really like to, and yeah, I'm comfortable talking about the flight and what it was like. Okay, you get me started on flying, I'll talk about that for sure. But I'd really like to open it up to you. And if I don't understand you, I'm going to ask you to say it again because I've got to deal with what the mic pickup is there. Okay, do bear with me. All right.
Anybody got a question?
Sure. Some questions.
I actually have a question.
Who are you?
My name is Alex. My question for you is, since you've made the flight, have you been in contact with any of the representatives up there? Did you get any response from them for what you did?
Contact from what, anyone in Congress, do you mean?
Anybody in Congress? Did any of them even acknowledge it, talk to you, say,
Yeah.
I hear you, anything like that?
No, I do understand your question. And I was really pleased that very early on, Congresswoman Kathy Castor contacted me by email, which means somebody did a certain amount of homework to track me down. And she asked for the actual content of the letter. She wanted to read it. As far as I know, they're still impounded, so she didn't have it. And then after she received it, she wrote me back again to give me a list of legislation going in the direction of transparency in government that she had co-sponsored or supported. Full disclosure, at no time did she endorse what I had done, okay? But she asked what I had done. She asked what was in the letter, and what she has proposed so far doesn't go a third of the way of where we need to go, but she's honestly talking about it.
Well, it's nice that she responded, though.
Yeah, that's my reaction too.
Well, we'll give Kathy Castor credit for responding.
Anybody else have a question?
Does your restrictions on your problem with influence in Congress apply, number one, also in the administration, and also does it apply to labor unions? It seems like they have a lot of power.
I'm sorry, because of the mic pickup, I didn't get that.
Does your problem with the fat cats buying influence in the government, does that also apply to labor unions? And does also apply to the federal administration, the presidency as well?
So if you hadn't heard that, that was a sort of not just campaign money, but also influences. So for instance, like the unions have an influence over the representatives in Congress, as well as I think he said the executive.
Yes.
No, I'm not sure which part, but maybe the executive branch, one of their many offices, or just the one guy.
Well, no, the entire executive branch.
Okay, like the entire executive branch having sway over, put pressure on Congress as well. Yeah, so we got kind of campaign finance, you got unions, and you got the executive branch. Is that part of your argument that you also would like to lessen the ability for organized unions to also, in a sense, lobby their congressmen as well as the executive branch lobby their congressmen?
Okay, I'm going to give you my personal take on it. In my opinion, the way it should be set up is that Congress only takes money from people, not from corporations, not from unions, okay, but only from people. And the total amount any one person can give should be limited. I'm actually comfortable with political action committees that are only supported by contributions by people. But if the total amount you were allowed to give in a 2-year election cycle was, just to pick a number, $2,000, if you gave money to a political action committee, it would be deducted from the $2,000 you could give to candidates. So if a political action company, if a PAC speaks for you and you're comfortable with their message, I think a person should be able to give to a PAC. But right now, PACs are synonymous with special interests, and they're a sham. It's a joke. It's a way of getting around the rules. So if you're asking, do I think unions should be able to contribute directly to campaigns? No. I think only people should be able to give to campaigns, and in limited amounts.
So basically, bundlers, that would be in the category of things you don't want to have, as someone who's out trying to fill a bag of money as a bundler to feed to a politician. I guess that would be off the list.
Exactly. That's exactly the kind of thing that needs to go away. Okay. It needs to be that there is, right now, Congress people are spending almost half of their workday on the phones raising money. Okay. It's ridiculous. Your employer would never allow you to spend half of your workday doing things that just make sure that you'll keep your job. I mean, and yet Congress spends half of their workday raising money for the next campaign run. Okay, that needs to completely go away. There are a lot of ideas out there how to do it, and I don't care how it gets done. But the campaign, the money that Congress is having to raise is ridiculous. That's the focus of what they're doing. That needs to go away. Did I lose you? I've got video, but no audio, and I haven't done anything from here.
Can you hear anything? No, still not. Oh, no. There it is. I think we're back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Gremlins.
Can we hear him?
So working for you on your end?
Yes, I'm with you.
There you go. We can hear you too.
So JB had a question, I think.
About that?
Yeah, just if you could paint the picture for us. You're in the air, they're coming up on the Capitol, and what happened? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, but I couldn't make that out.
So you turned on your rotocopter in some field in Virginia. You gassed it up, revved it up. You went to full throttle. Tell us what happened next.
Well, where I was, I actually took off from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And it took me an hour to unload the machine and get it set up, get the GPS turned on. Radio, I warmed it up before I took off. I left exactly at 12 o'clock, which is part of my plan, because I had delayed mail that I was going to send out exactly at 12 o'clock. So I left Gettysburg at 10 minutes after noon. And because of what I had sent out, I really expected I would be intercepted along the way. And I didn't intend to land or be forced down, but I thought I was going to wind up with a Black Hawk escort on the way in. That didn't happen. And I could see the Washington Monument as I got in close. And then I got up closer and I could see the river. So I knew where I was, and I made the turn so that I was flying in the entire length of the Washington Mall. And I had expected at that point that there was going to be all the police out with the flashing lights and probably a patrol car or a police truck every 20 or 30 yards. And that wasn't happening. And I'm going, something's not right here. I don't know what is happening. I got no reception committee. The police don't show any indications that they know I'm coming. I'm flying over people. Some of them, most people didn't even look up, but the people who looked up, some of them would wave. So I waved back. You know, I told Ben Montgomery with the St. Pete Times that jolly and terrorists don't go together. So I figured I'd be friendly. And no, I wasn't shot by any snipers, although they have said that they had me in their sights. I didn't see anybody with weapons. And I decided I was not going to tempt fate. And I made a straight shot up. I didn't fly around the Washington Monument, which would have been fun. And all the way I was going over the Washington Mall, I was in a normal landing mode. I was descending and had throttled back. I was thinking that I might have to land before I got to where I did land, because I had cased it out a year before and there was some good flat area that would have been an ideal landing spot. But as I got up there, I could see that right in front of Congress, that lawn was completely clear. There was nobody on it. And that was the more difficult shot because I had to land on a slope. So some people have seen the video of me. I actually gunned it up a little bit and I climbed. I went over a reflecting pool, a pond of water that they've got. I went past a monument and I was descending pretty good at that point, and I just kept throttling it back and descending. The landing was not perfect, but the way it turned out, the one person who got the shot of me making the approach got stuck behind a monument, and they didn't catch on video that I bounced when I landed. So I can deny that with all my flying buddies.
We need a clap for that one.
Any landing you can walk away from was a good landing, and as far as I know, I didn't actually bend anything. At that point, I was mostly concerned with getting the rotors stopped, because the spinning main rotors are a hazard to anybody who would come running up, even a cop. If a police officer had been running up and he or somebody else had shot me, then I've got no control over the angle of that blade, and it could have dropped back spinning, and I could have beheaded a policeman. It wouldn't have been anything I could do about it, but I was trying to get the blade stopped as quickly as I could. And one cop who was on duty up right in front of the building, the congressional building, he popped up and he told me not to move, which I thought was funnier than hell. Like, where am I going to go? The engine was off, and I gave him an open palm signal that I was unarmed and I wasn't going anywhere. I could hear sirens. I knew that they were coming in. I never saw a cop with a drawn weapon, which I consider to be a good sign. They evaluated me as not threatening, and they didn't overreact. I cooperated with the police, and I probably spent an hour and a half or 2 hours being questioned, which I cooperated with. Technically, I should not have. Technically, I should have demanded a lawyer and stood up for my rights and all of that. But I could tell from their reaction that they didn't know what was going on, and I needed to try to convince them as early as possible that they didn't have to worry about me being a threat or there being a threat following. So I talked to them fairly freely about why I had done what I had done, and tried to give them enough evidence to where they could see that they didn't have to worry about a volley of other gyros, and there wasn't going to be a second wave.
No turkey shoot. No turkey shoot for the congressional police that day, huh?
I heard congressional police. What was the question?
No turkey shoot that day for the congressional police.
The Capitol Police, like I said, I'm convinced they had no idea what was going on, and they were very professional throughout. nobody ever roughed me up. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're flying in. There's no hassle happening from anywhere. Did you feel like, God was on your side when you're coming in across the mall, knowing you were delivering a message that half the country would hear?
I understand you're asking about the message, but I'm sorry.
I was curious that when you were flying in without having any problems from the law enforcement, did you feel like you had God on your side and that your message would finally make it to the people?
I try never to project that I've got God on my shoulder or I've got any kind of special protection. Throughout the process of planning for this, I believed that it was the right thing to do. And there were times that I'm aware things broke my way, but I'm not going to say that God was involved, but I was certainly aware that things broke my way when I was driving up, for example. I had constructed the supports for the main rotor blades so that when I trailered up, the weight of the blades wouldn't actually damage the rotor head. And those supports, the front one was my main anchor point, which kept the blades from spinning around from the wind. And bouncing around and with the vibration, some of the bolts loosened up and came off. And I looked up at the support for that front rotor on the trailer. Both of the nuts had fallen off. One of the bolts had fallen out, and only one bolt was hanging in there to keep that thing supported. And had it come loose, the blades would have swung around in the wind and self-destructed, and that would have been the end of that. I think that's the most scared that I was when I was driving up there and I looked at that support almost coming off.
We have another question for you.
Sure.
From my understanding, that the media, the Tampa Bay Times, was aware that you were going to be doing this.
Yes.
Did you tell them to not tell the people in Washington, D.C. that you were doing it, or did you not tell that to them? And if so, do you think that they told because I do find it amazing that they never tried to stop you or anything, and that it's almost like they didn't even know it was happening, but somebody knew that you were doing this. You didn't make it a secret necessarily. So I'm just kind of curious as to, like, how public did you make it before you did it?
I talked to Ben Montgomery months before I made the flight, and he checked me out quite thoroughly to make sure that I wasn't violent. I know, for example, that he checked my arrest record out as part of checking up on me. He knew, because I told him, that the Secret Service had done a background check on me, and he demanded confirmation that I had talked to the Secret Service. Well, they also talked to somebody else the next 2 days later. The Secret Service did. So he was able to get collaboration that I had gotten a background check from the Secret Service. We agreed that he was going to break the story on their website as soon as I left the ground. Not 1 minute before, but we were going to break it while I was in the air. And they caught a lot of flack for that, but they only reported the news that was happening. They didn't make it happen. And they felt, and I agree with them, but I'm biased, that it is not the job of the media to be a snitch for the federal government. Now, if they thought I was violent at all, they would have come down on it differently, I'm sure. But they knew I wasn't. Long answer, but that's the truth.
No, thank you.
Got a question on the other side of the table.
Got a question about the letters themselves. Were they actually addressed with postal, on stamps on them?
They were all stamped. It cost me over $250 for the stamps.
So legally they have to be delivered then, don't they?
Yes. And that's the point that I made the day that I was arrested to the Office of Inspector General that is part of the post office, okay? Because the OIG wanted to question me after the police did. And I told them I expect them delivered.
Right, so they can't hold them in evidence for very long, right?
At the moment, as far as I know, they're holding them as evidence. And
Right.
exactly what the rules are, that I don't know.
Okay.
At some point after this is done with, they can't destroy them. They've got to deliver them.
Yeah. Did you feel that you got your point across?
It's funny, and I'm gonna answer that a couple of ways. Number one, I had no idea what was going on when I was arrested. Okay, I didn't know if it had worked, if it had not worked. I didn't know if the email had worked. I knew that I had been arrested and that the people I flew over saw it, but I didn't know how it had worked for 25 hours. It wasn't until I was released on my own recognizance, and I went to my attorney's office, and he tossed a copy of the Washington Post on me, and there I was, the top of the fold, front page color picture of me flying in. That's when I started to realize that the media had picked up on it. I really didn't know until that point. I'm still trying to get the message across, and I probably will be for the next couple of years. I didn't expect that everybody would jump on the bandwagon at once, but I made a dent. And I think that I'm talking to you, and I think I'm getting a fairly good reaction from you because you know I'm real. Okay, I put some major skin in the game.
Yeah.
And people respect that.
Questions?
Any other questions?
I got a question. Charlie Westlake. You're a member of a labor union. Now, let's say you have the evil Koch brothers over here who put $1 million into a campaign, and they have a unionized company that they own. Do you think that unions should be able to have almost unlimited manpower flow into a campaign, which is equivalent to them spending money?
Okay.
You hear that? You hear that okay?
Go ahead, repeat that if you would.
Okay. You're a member of a labor union. Do you think unions should be able to spend the equivalent of dollars with gazillions of man hours going into a campaign, whereas on the other side you have a rich business owner who might want to donate to a campaign? You know, he might own the company that a lot of these union people come from, but you want his ability to put manpower into it to be limited. Where you think the union should be able to funnel a lot of manpower into a campaign, which is the equivalent of cash?
I'll try to surmise it. So without using cash, but using a wealthy person's employees to help a campaign, say like a union shop, say General Motors lets out all their workers to go campaign for a congressperson for the half a day. Would that be in violation of what you're trying to where you're trying to point the future rules?
Okay, it's a really good question. It goes into, this is why I like these type of settings, because I can talk to you about stuff that at a depth that I can't do when I have to give 15-second answers. In the process of setting up what was going on, what you're talking about is something that there's a name for it. It's called a connected PAC, okay? And the way a connected PAC works is it's an organization that's structured by some corporate entity, for example, to collect money technically, legally from individuals, which makes it PAC money. But in a lot of cases, for example, with a bank, the bank actually has employees who are running the PAC, who are going to employees with forms and getting these people to sign forms to donate money out of every one of their paychecks. And unions could be doing the same thing. And I can go down the list. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, it's all illegal if it is a connected PAC that's a shell organization run by the company. In other words, cable companies, banks, telecommunications, unions, all of these places will set up PACs that they're doing a lot of heavy arm twisting to collect the funds. And I don't like connected PACs, and I don't care who they're connected to. Now, me, I'm a Democrat. I tend liberal. But when I talk about the subject, I'm even across the board.
Yeah, but what if it's not cash? What I'm saying is, what if the labor union is funneling their people in, like for phone banks, or to go door to door?
Are the unions paying their people to do it, or are people who are in a union just showing up? I make a distinction there. Okay.
They're showing up under pressure, but they're also going to open to keep their high-paid jobs.
It's not something that I'm going to settle for you, but as I see it, for example, I belong to a government union, the Rural Carriers Union. It's one of the smallest government unions there is. There's about, I think, 30,000 members, okay? But, for example, when the post office was working, the dog wants to talk. When they had shifted things around to where we were delivering mail after dark, and in some areas it was putting carriers at risk because there are places where it's not safe for a carrier after dark. As a union, we objected. We organized and we said, hey, you guys got to get us the mail in the morning so that we can finish up, so that particularly in these, ghetto areas, these guys can get done with their job and get out of there, okay, before things get too rough. And we had people who were turning up dead when delivering in the dark. Here's my point. We organized as a group. We showed up in mass to protest something that we thought was dangerous for our people. And I'm always going to stand up for that. Where you're asking, can unions throw people instead of money at a situation? If these people are on the payroll when they show up, then it should be treated as money. But if they're showing up as people who believe in something, then it's not money, it's people. That's how I see it.
So I was going to ask if there's one more question, because I know we're holding you up there for about an hour now. So we got a question on the left here.
Did you get your gyrocopter back?
I have said as a reply to that I expect the government will melt it down and make beer cans out of it. In actuality, I don't think they will ever release it back to me. If it doesn't wind up in the warehouse that they had for Indiana Jones, you know, where the Ark of the Covenant went, then they may auction it off. I don't see what else they can do with it. But no, I don't think I'm going to get it back.
I had an idea. You could donate it to the Air and Space Museum in Chantilly, Virginia. Put it right next to the Enola Gay.
It will be interesting. I honestly think that's something that the government is not sure, other than the fact they know they don't want to give it back to me. They don't know what they want to do with it.
Might be a good second wave of PR for you. You publicly let them know they can take it and put it in the museum.
It really amused me. I made the Letterman top 10 list earlier this month. I don't know if anybody was watching Letterman. Obama was on the show that night. And so the top 10 list was the top 10 things dumb guys ask the president. And they go up from 10, they count it down to number 1. So for the top 10 dumb things people ask the president, number 1 was, when will I get my gyrocopter back?
That's good.
And I made Letterman, so I guess I'm immortal.
There you go.
I appreciate your time. I know you got other things on your agenda. I
Well,
appreciate your time.
thank you. We're going to get you this book. We're going to pass along to you this book, Peace, Love, and Liberty. We're also going to include the world's smallest quiz, which is a self-guided question and answer to figure out where you yourself lay on the political spectrum. And hopefully we can have you out here in person one of these days soon as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And by the way, if you can ever suggest, I'm really pleased to talk to libertarian groups. You people are motivated and you're patriotic, and I think we can find agreement on the issue of corruption.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks again.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and clock out. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much.